course, my husband is here. Uh, this is an off night for me, but we canceled stream yesterday for some business, and um, so I am making what I was gonna make yesterday tonight, and that is basically a salmon casserole. It is starting with frozen salmon, and they are still frozen. It makes it a little easier to cut them. Um, so I am going to start freeing them from their little plastic cages. Um, the way of selecting salmon, sorry, we've got things going on in the background here. The way of selecting salmon, um, there's nothing wrong with this. This is wild caught pink salmon, and uh, there's nothing wrong with having it frozen. The way they flash freeze um, fish these days, it captures all of the flavor that you would have normally, and it allows them to stay in a more fresh state than if they shipped them in some cases. So they basically take them, catch them, and these were wild caught. And uh, they are about 2 pounds total for this. And once again, the recipe for this will be up on my Discord after stream. It was based off of the flavors of my grandmother's salmon, creamed salmon on toast. And I started wondering what it would taste like to have it not on toast, because the toast does add a particular flavor to it, and um, I just thought it would be nice with fresh salmon or frozen salmon instead of canned, which her recipe called for. And I could see that it might be an improvement, something a little less informal, I guess I could say. It's something a little less informal, something a little more um, fancy, I guess, by putting it on pasta and having some vegetables with it. Thank you, Dad. Uh, and so I adapted the recipe, and I'm going to go through it with you guys here tonight. Grandma started out with sockeye salmon in a can, and it came bones and skin on, and you had to pick the whole thing apart in order to get to it. And these come skinless and boneless already, which is nice. And they are, of course, as of yet, very frozen. But that doesn't matter, they'll cook fairly quickly. So the first thing we want to do is cut them into bigger pieces, so about sections an inch wide. And we don't really want them to break apart. It would be nice to have some salmon bites. Like I said, when it's frozen, the fish cuts very easily. It's actually easier than when it's thawed, because then you kind of have to saw through it. And here you get the advantage of having a nice clean cut. And it doesn't really take much pressure. These fillets are just about a 1/2 inch, and as you can see, They cut like cheese, really. It's pretty easy to get through. This one's a bit thicker in the middle. Still not hard to get through. And I am using 2 pounds of penne pasta for this. You could use egg noodles if you want to. I like something that holds up a little bit better. So I chose penne. I was thinking originally of rotini that looks like corkscrews, but we didn't have any. So I used the penne that we did have. And I'm watching my father cruise around behind me for some reason. I'm not sure why. So I apologize for being a little distracted. And I'm just going to continue to cut these into about 1-inch pieces. And then I will be cooking them in some herbs and some tomato juice, actually. Vegetable juice, I suppose you should call it. It's V8. I like the combination better than just plain tomato juice. It gives you extra nutrients that the regular tomato juice doesn't have, and it adds a little extra flavor. And we will just keep going through these until they're all done. And if you're using fresh salmon, and you can feel free to use fresh salmon if you'd like, you need to select fish from a fish market. The fish market in your store is fine, but you need to inspect the fish. Don't just take it from them. You need to smell the fish first. And salmon should just smell like the ocean, basically. It should smell like a day. If you go out to an ocean beach, it has that clean salt scent to it. And that is what fresh salmon should smell like. There shouldn't be anything off-putting. Should definitely not smell like ammonia. Fish all develops an ammonia scent when it starts to rot. So if you smell ammonia, if it makes your eyes sting or your nose sting to be around it, your fish is rotting. And it doesn't take long. It only takes a couple days. So fish is extremely perishable. So the first test is, does it smell? And fresh fish shouldn't smell fishy. So that's test number 1. Second test is a fresh fish will not have any curled up edges. It will not have any darkening at the edges. The gills will be bright red and not have any darkening or curling in them. The fish eyes should be bright and wet, and they should be slightly rounded outward, so they're convex, not concave. When they start to get old, they start to get dark on the edges. They start to get their gills turning dark red and look dry, and the eyes kind of sink and look dry. And if you touch the flesh, it will press in and stay in. You want to make sure if that the fish feels moist, and that if you press the flesh and let go, it should rise back up like living flesh, basically. Uh, when it starts to do that sinking thing, that's because it's starting to decay. So There are some tricks to selecting fish, and if you have a good fish market, you'll know it. It's generally hard to find away from uh, oceans, away from the ocean ports. Although that's not always true. You can get some pretty good fish in like Las Vegas that they have flown in every day, but it's very expensive. Um, and when you live near a seaport like we do, it's pretty easy to. We live near Seattle, and we get fishing fleets that come in up in the Everett area and down in Seattle and all over basically that uh, come in with fresh fish every morning, and your fish markets will get the deliveries, and when the store opens they've got fresh fish. So that's that's an excellent idea. If you're in a landlocked area, that's generally where you hear people say, I don't care for fish, fish is so fishy, statements like that. um, I am going to ask my husband to bring me something to drink because I don't have anything to drink. Uh, no, honey, not beer. Uh, how about some water? Although, if you. Okay, open it, please. Thank you. He has given up one of his Coca-Cola Zero Sugars for me. What a nice husband. All right. Now, I've got all of the fish cut up, and what I'm going to do with this now is take and get my lovely Dutch oven, and I am going to place the fish in here, and I'm basically going to poach it, and I'm going to do that in, well, the tomato juice with some herbs in it, and then when it's poached, doesn't take long to poach, even though this is frozen. So we will. Normally, if you're doing a fish dish, fish is the very last thing you add because it takes such a short time to cook fish. Um, fish, even if you're making like a chowder or a fish soup, you don't start with putting the fish in there. You start with the vegetables and getting them tender first, because if you sit there and boil the fish in it in an idea that you're going to make it taste like fish, uh, what you end up with is fish that is massively overcooked, usually dry, and it falls apart. Or even worse, depending on the kind of fish, if you're talking about shellfish or scallops, things like that, which are of course shellfish, um, you end up with something so rubbery you don't want to eat it. It's can't even really. It's just unpleasant to chew. It's just really, really rubbery. It's like chewing on rubber, and it's just nasty. Scallops. I make a great scallop chowder. Someday I'll demonstrate that for y'all. And um, scallop chowder takes about 20 minutes to do the potatoes and all of the other um, vegetables that go in it, and you bring it all to a boil. You use a seafood stock on it, and then you take and you run uh, when it's all ready and nothing really needs to be cooked, you take your scallops and you put your scallops into the water and, or pardon me, the stock and everything, and turn the heat off because it's going to be ready by the time you get the bowls ready. So it takes maybe 5 minutes to uh, cook them through completely. All right, so I have got the salmon here, and that's 2 pounds of salmon. And I'm now going to shake up the can of V8. And I don't use the spicy. You could if you wanted to, but I don't. I also don't use the low sodium. This is the full sodium stuff, so this is also going to have milk in it, so it's not something my mother can eat. But then she tells me she doesn't like salmon anyway. More for us. All right, so I've got that in here, and as you can see, it's just enough to basically be in the bottom there. And I am now going to turn this on to a medium heat. And because I don't need to cut anything else, I'm going to get the cutting board out of the way until later. And I've got 2 trays of the penne pasta here, as I mentioned, and it's been cooked al dente. And it's not anything I really thought I needed to show you. I didn't make the penne, so what I've got is we did the penne first. Andrew did the penne first. Sorry, honey. And it's 2 16-ounce boxes, and it was just put into lightly salted water. Bye, Connor. And it was basically just cooked under water by the directions on the box. I think it was like 11 minutes or something. Didn't think that really needed to be shown how to do that. So I'm going to get this starting to heat up, and meanwhile I will reach through dangerously and get my measuring devices. And I am going to be putting in some sage and some dill and some parsley. And I'll just put that over there, excuse me, for now. And I am going to add about a half a teaspoon of sage. Sage might seem like a funny choice for salmon, but it actually goes quite well. You don't want it to be heavily sagey. Now the dill is another thing. You do want to have a fair amount of dill. I am going to add in, oh, that just smells so wonderful. This is freeze-dried dill from Lighthouse, and it is just wonderful. It smells so good. And I am going to use a teaspoon of dill to start. You could actually add some lemon juice to this, but because I'm going to be doing a modified cream sauce later, I'm not going to add the lemon juice to it. So, and then I've got some parsley that I will add, and as usual, I'm pretty profuse with the parsley. I'm going to add a tablespoon of parsley. And my family used to joke that when I would make chicken or steak or things like that, I would always just cover it in sage and rosemary and parsley. As a matter of fact, I have a very favorite dish, which is parsley chicken, and I take chicken breasts and pound them so that they're level and will cook evenly, or thighs, and I salt and pepper them, and then I just basically thickly cover one side with parsley, and then put it in the oven at about 325 degrees and let it cook on a low heat, and just bake at a low heat, and it just has the most wonderful flavor. And the chicken is always so moist, cooked low and slow like that. And I like making chicken sandwiches out of it. It's excellent for that. It's even moist the second day. Um, anyway, So they would make, basically they would say, Karen's having green steak. Karen's having, that's my actual name is Karen. Um, which explains why I tend to snarl when people talk about a Karen and are complaining about a very unpleasant female. Um, my family are the only people who call me Karen, so everybody else calls me Hedgie, thank God. And um, they would say that I'm having green steak. They know which one's mine because it's green. Of course, some of the family that was doing this was pasting theirs with liberal amounts of garlic. So since I'm allergic to garlic and can't do that, we usually had to cook mine completely away from theirs because even spattering on my food would make me sick. So uh, that wasn't fun to found out that the hard way. Anyway, so what we're going to do is poach this. It needs to actually come to a simmer first. And this is my Farberware hot plate, and it does have, instead of coils for the heating element, they actually have solid cast iron plate, and that heats. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the cheers from the Pigloo. From the Pigloo, yet you hide and you give me cheers. Thank you so much, Connor. We appreciate it so much. Um, I lost what I was saying. um, we're going to raise this to a simmer and it will start to poach, and then I will get the salmon cooked and we'll put that over the casserole, and I'll make the sauce to put on the casserole. This is not one that you're going to cook in the oven. This is what I call a stovetop casserole, basically. It is complete when you finish the sauce and pour it over the pasta. And normally what I would do is have the pasta cooking at the same time I'm making the sauce, and then it would just all be combined at the same time. So when I made the sauce, I'd put the meat back into it and the vegetables I'm going to put in there, and then we would put the pasta in, stir it around, and it would be done. But that's not what we're doing here. So, like I said, this is based on the idea of my grandmother's recipe of creamed salmon on toast. And she always made a white sauce for it. And she always flavored the white sauce with just the slightest bit of ketchup that would turn it the same color as the salmon. And it's just a pale pinkish beige. And it doesn't let you actually taste ketchup. That's not what you taste. You have a slight, you can tell that there's probably tomatoes in it, but not a lot. It's very, very light on the tomato flavor, and that's a pretty good thing, actually. Um, some people like seafood in a red sauce, cioppino. That's a rather famous fisherman's stew, and it's all done in a spicy red sauce with lots of garlic, and it usually has some heat in it too from cracked red pepper and whatever fresh fish they happen to have on the boat. It was a fisherman's stew because fishermen made it and that's what they ate. So it usually had crab, sometimes it had shrimp in it, and then clams maybe, or mussels, whatever was fresh, whatever was around. Several boats would come together and make this and share it and have a festive meal together. And this is where that basically came from. But I prefer white sauces, or at best, a kind of a tomato cream. So it's primarily cream sauce with a little bit of tomato in it. They complement each other. And the flavor of a slightly sweetened tomato cream sauce really does highlight the flavor of the salmon. So thanks, Grandma, for teaching me that. and letting me know that it's not necessarily bad to put ketchup in things. Um, she was a very good cook, but she was also a very simple cook. Um, she learned from her mother, and her mother actually came across the United States in a covered wagon. She was married to a immigrant from Turkey who uh, his job was to put the railroad in, and he put in the railroad from New York all the way through Washington. And he, oh, stop with the ew ketchup. You know you like this. Um, he and his three sons and his wife and daughter went across with the railroad troop, and all along the way they would stop and build little railroad towns, just little shacks basically that they put up, and they would live in those shacks while the men, put down the timbers. Pink Pig. Okay, where's Pink Pig? I see Pink Pig. I will need to reach Pink Pig. Okay. I borrowed my husband's arms. Pink Pig! It's Pink Pig! Pink Pig, Pink Pig. Thank you for the Pink Pig. Pink Pig's so happy to be here. She loves salmon cream too. Pink Pig! Yay! And I know my husband's going to clip that. If you were hoping I was going to put on my pig hat, I'm not. We found Pink Pig again. Andrew found Pink Pig, so. You love that? Is it the falsetto squeal? Is that what it is? Because he has me clipped with the hat, and he has me clipped doing the Pink Pig thing and squealing Pink Pig, and yeah. He has me going la 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 from the hat. We're doing okay. On and off. It's kind of, I push myself and then I regret it. I push myself and then I regret it. I get better and then I push myself. It's a never-ending cycle with me. Yeah, Andrew's doing awesome as always. If not for him, this place would just fall apart. Oh no. Oh no. Yeah, that's gonna play the next time someone gives me a shout out, and they're all gonna laugh their tail ends off. So for anybody that's watching that hasn't already joined, we have a Discord, and on that Discord I have all of my recipes and pictures of my recipes that I've made on stream. I have an area that is set up so that you can find the equipment that I use, the cookware and such, if you would like to get what I use. And I don't get any kickbacks for that. I'm just being nice and telling you what I use and what's good quality stuff. And um, it's also a place where you can post pictures of your furry little friends uh, and your pets. And a there's places where you can put your own recipes if you would like to share them, and pictures of food that you've cooked or enjoyed. And there's a place for suggestions and requests for things that I cook. And it is, you can find it if someone types Discord. And my streams are available on my channel, my VODs. And once they go down from there, my husband posts them. Yes, exactly like that, honey. And you can find them after they go down from Twitch. You can find them on my YouTube channel. which stunningly is called Cooking with Hedgepigs. And that is, all of them will be up there pretty much in perpetuity until I take them down. And the link for that Andrew already posted, and it is also on my channel page as one of my little poke it links. And we have, I have an Instagram too, but it's not up to date. No, I don't know how to do any of that stuff. So, in any case, this is starting to heat up, fortunately. And I am just shifting these around in here so that everything gets heated. It's breaking them up a bit because it doesn't really take long to cook fish. It probably only takes, if you cut it up like I did, it probably will only take 5, maybe 10 minutes even from frozen to get them poached through. And there's a debate on how exactly to cook salmon. Some people like it cooked completely through, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's pretty much a traditional way. When you flake the fish apart, and that's how you can tell if it's done. You put a fork into it and twist it slightly, and the meat will fall apart in flakes. And that is a test to make sure it's done. And it should be, if it is considered well done, the same color the whole way through. So with pink salmon, it would be a pale pink, kind of a pinkish beige, all the way through. And there wouldn't be any variation in the color. Now, some people like to eat theirs medium, which means in the center it will be a darker pink. And that's because that is not cooked all the way through. And yes, that's safe to eat that way because especially when you're talking about a product that has been frozen, and most are flash frozen, that kills any worms that may be in it if it's a wild salmon. And that's not very prevalent anymore. But that is part of the reason why they do that. And so that is safe, but it's up to you whether or not you like that. Personally, I like my fish to be done all the way through. Now you can see I've actually got this starting to simmer. It's coming up into a light simmer, and that's all I really want it to do. So I'm going to put the lid back on it and let it continue to cook. The liquid has come up, and this would actually made if I continued to put more, if I put some more water into it, and if I put, or wine, well, some nice white wine would be good. And I could add in some cod and some shrimp. I could add in some squid rings and some other things, and that would make it a nice seafood stew before I add the white sauce. Let me see. I am going to let this finish cooking. It should only be another couple minutes. I'm going to stir it because I can see that the things on the bottom are done and the things that are not in the liquid are not done. So I'm going to make sure everybody has time in the bath. And yeah, there are some things that are still not cooked. So we will make sure that they are. And if you can see that, these smaller pieces here, they're already flaking. They're already breaking on the flake lines here. And that means actually that that piece of fish is done. I'm gonna taste it. Nice. It'll taste better when it's completely combined with everything, but still a bit short for this. All right. You are not allergic to America. You have a deviated septum. Okay. And yeah, that little bit you see in here every once in a while is me, and that's my Christmas sweater I'm wearing. Yeah, honey, there is a difference between a deviated septum and allergic to America. The difference is one is because someone punched you in the nose and broke your nose, and the other one would be if you actually had allergies, which you don't. So, lucky devil. I have more than enough allergies for the two of us. You can have the deviated septum because I'm rather happy no one's ever punched me in the nose. You are amazing, my love. So, I will be very shortly removing the salmon and the tomato sauce into the trays with the pasta, and then I will be making a cream sauce in here, and that should only take another couple minutes for the salmon to be ready. Oddly enough, you remove the lid of a pot and things stop boiling, and we really do want them to boil. So I'll put the lid back on, and let's see. This Saturday, I am going to be making breakfast for dinner. And what that means is I am going to be making a breakfast lasagna of a different nature. And it is going to be made with all kinds of good things. I'm not going to spoil it. And then while it's cooking in the oven, I am going to show people how to make a couple different kinds of other breakfast foods you can have for dinner. I'm going to be making egg sandwiches, and it depends. I might actually try to make a Hollandaise sauce, but I don't really enjoy making those. There's so much whisking involved. A Hollandaise sauce is made with, to make enough for a couple eggs Benedict. You take 3 egg yolks, just the yolks, so you separate the eggs, and then you add a tablespoon of water and a tablespoon of lemon juice, and you start whisking those egg yolks for all you're worth along with the water and the lemon juice over a double boiler, which is basically a pot that has water boiling in the bottom, and you have another pot over the top of that, or a bowl, and you whisk that and whisk that and whisk that, and you make sure it doesn't actually come to a boil because it will make scrambled eggs instead. And you whisk it until the eggs turn a nice pale color and get all nice and start thickening, and then you want to start adding in melted butter to it, and you continue to whisk and hope like heck that it doesn't break, because at the point you add the butter to it, the sauce can break, and then it's not that it tastes bad, but it looks bad, and you'll end up with areas that just taste like butter and areas that taste like the eggs. So It's best. It's kind of finicky, and once it breaks, you just want to throw it away and start again. And I don't really want to mess with that. So, all right, I am pretty sure this is done. I shall check the salmon, and all the salmon I see is flaking apart. So it is done. All right, I am going to turn the heat off under that for now. Get my mouse out of the way so I don't drag any stuff over against that. And I think I'm going to use the ladle because I am getting out both salmon and liquid to put into these. And I will be putting this over the top. And as you can see, if you look at a piece of this, I've got a fork here, trying not to burn myself. Okay, so I've got a fork here, and what you can do is you can take your fork and put it in the fish. Ouch, it's hot fish. And give it a twist, and what it will do is your fish will break up into flakes like that. So you see, it's a flake of fish. And it's all the same color through, so it's done. I am going to put some over this fish. And I'm trying to divide them evenly between these two trays. Now this is possible to freeze, but because you're using a cream sauce in this, the texture might not be the best when you're done, when you thaw it. So um, better to probably just not try to freeze it. This will stay good in the refrigerator for 3 to 4 days. That's true with most seafood dishes. That's what they say. Personally, I don't like them after about 2. They start getting fishy, and I'm spoiled. So I'm used to my fish not tasting terribly fishy. Okay, so I've got that out of the way. And the next thing we're going to do, now that we have my 2 trays of salmon and noodles, I am going to take and make a white sauce. And if you were watching on Monday, I made a white sauce and put tuna in it. And this time this white sauce is going on salmon. And I will take and cut this into pieces. And since I see my husband up and walking around, I am going to take advantage of that and say, yes, I need the milk. I also need another can of tomato juice in case I need to thin it. Thank you, sweetheart. So that is melting on the residual heat. I will turn it up to about a medium low. And this is 2% milk. It would be a thicker sauce if you used 4%. But you don't have to use that. You can even use 1% to make a cream sauce. It's just what they called. Let me see. So we are going to, and that was a whole stick of butter, and it is going to combine with flour very soon because this is almost melted. It's a little easier to see it in the frying pan rather than a Dutch oven, and that's what this is called. It's a 5-quart Dutch oven. I like it very much. It is an attempt to make it so that I am not cooking such massive amounts anymore, but as you see by the fact I'm making 2 trays of pasta, I'm failing. So I take my flour container now and I measure out a cup, which coincidentally just burrowing it into there pretty much puts a cup in it. And I will put that in here on top of the butter and the whisk. And get that out of the way again. Get it down there. And then I will start whisking this up to mix it with the flour. And this makes what's called a roux. And this is the base of a lot of different kinds of sauces, a lot of different kinds of thickeners. You would make a dark roux, which means you cook the flour long enough to really brown it. It will turn almost a chocolate color if you brown it long enough, and they would take and make that into a gumbo, adding their juices and stocks to it. It makes a very deep, flavorful, almost nutty flavor when the flour gets browned like that, but we don't want that. We're making what's called a bechamel, and that is one of the mother sauces, meaning it's basically one of the bases that everybody uses. I'll explain the mother sauces some other day. You want to let this cook because you don't want the taste of raw flour. And while we are letting that cook, I am going to measure out some milk. This is going to take 6 cups of milk. And I have only got a 4-cup measuring cup, so I'll be doing it in 2 stages, which I prefer to do it in 1, but 4 cups is all I could conceive of needing. Surprise! Yeah, it's personal preference on what milk to use. Grandma always used 4% because everybody liked whole milk, and you know, whole milk, real butter, lots of oil, you know, all kinds of things that most people these days don't do because they think it's unhealthy or they have to watch their cholesterol. And there's some basic misinformation on what a healthy diet is, but I'm not going to go into that because I'm not a nutritionist, and it's up to people's doctors what's good for them. And that is as it should be. Anything you do, you know, you want to make sure that you check with your doctor if you're going to suddenly go a full fat diet, which generally the keto diets are high in fat because the fats are good for them. They take out sugar and carbs. Okay. And I let this cook for probably 4 minutes, 4 to 5. And at that point, I add the milk in. And it doesn't take much more than 5 or 6 minutes after that to become a nice sauce. And I will be adding more seasonings into that. I will be adding in some more of the tomato juice, and I will also be adding a little bit of ketchup. And I know that some of the people who will be watching this VOD will be going, ew, ketchup. There's nothing wrong with ketchup. If you put it on everything and you drown it all, that's not the greatest thing in the world. But if that's how you enjoy your food, vive la de France. Yeah, it's part of what makes everybody different, what their tastes are. Some people hate ketchup, some people love it. I fall somewhere in between the two. Well, honey, you had me put your HP sauce on the toast and eggs yesterday, or the day before yesterday, with the tuna sauce. I think that was wrong, but that's me. I've got another couple minutes to let this cook, and then I will be starting to add some milk to it. My point is what exactly? Uh, my point is you should stick with ketchup. You're in America now. HP sauce, for people that don't know, is a rather famous sauce from England, and they call it brown sauce there. And it is basically made with some vinegar and spices, and it has some molasses in it and tamarind. Tamarind is a sweet and tart fruit that is commonly used to flavor um, dishes from Mexico, and also very commonly in Thai cooking. And it combines in HP sauce to make what tastes to me like a sweet and tangy barbecue sauce with just some of the spices that Americans are used to in their barbecue sauce is missing. It combines an HP sauce to make joy. I have to admit, it is very good. I like it on cheese sandwiches. It goes very good with cheese. It goes excellent with eggs. My husband uses it on sausages. They combine it often in bacon sandwiches, and just a variety of everything. So it's kind of their version of ketchup. So here is the first 4 cups of milk, and I need to whisk this like mad to make sure that it all gets combined and we don't have lumps, and because that would be awful. So I've got 1 stick of butter and a cup of flour, and the sauce that I made for the tuna on Monday for our surprise breakfast stream, uh, that I let go very thick, and we do not want it to be that thick in this case. Now while that has that going, I am going to add Measure out the rest of the milk. And this is using close to a quart of milk. If I was just going to be thickening a soup with this, and you'll see some of the herbs floating in this. It's nothing burned. It's some of the herbs from the side of the Dutch oven, and it's also picking up some of the tastiness of the fish that was cooked in here, which is great. And I'm going to turn up the heat just slightly because this milk is colder than what I habitually put in here. And I'm going to add the rest of the milk now. And at this point, you just stir it and monitor it, and you continue to run your whisk. And this is a plastic coated whisk because this is a non-stick pan. It is a hard anodized aluminum pan from Cuisinart, and you really shouldn't use metal in it. It says you can, but I won't, because if you damage the coating of the non-stick, it starts to flake off and into your food, and that's just a waste of a really good pan that if you take care of it, it'll be good for years and years, and you might even be able to pass it on to the next generation, like some of the cast iron. So the one thing you do not want to do with this is to let it boil. Don't ever have this on above a medium to medium high heat, because you will boil your milk, which will scald it, and it will get nasty. It will actually curdle and break, and just, you can't use it then. It has a terrible texture, it has a nasty taste, and we don't want to do that. Now that you have, Connor is my friend. He streams under The Only Deaf Guy, and he is a very talented young chef in England, in Cheltenham, England, which is in Gloucestershire. And he and his uncle are partners in a cafe where Connor is the chef, and he's just a wonderful cook, and he streams live from his cafe in British time, starting every morning around 8:30 GMT, I believe it's called, and Greenwich Mean Time, and he streams every day from 8:30 till about 5 p.m. Every 2 weeks on Thursday, his cafe closes down at the end of their day and then reopens an hour later for their chicken and chips night. His cafe is called Roasted, and they are the only place in all of Gloucestershire that has rotisserie chicken. And lately they branched out and had a night where they did rotisserie pork, and that screamed out of that restaurant, and they're probably going to be doing that again. But you'll get to see him make wonderful food that is just mouth-watering to see, and I have every confidence that it is just as good as it seems. And he streams that 6 days a week. They take Sundays off. And he's just a wonderful person. You need to go watch him if you have not already ever done it. Check out his VODs if you can't be up at the time. It's usually, I'm in the Pacific time zone, and he usually starts streaming at about 12:30 midnight. So 12:30 in the morning for us. I mod for him, and when I can. And I have a great time doing it. Another person that is here, can you please give a shout out to Chef Maria? Um, she is not able to watch because she is in Finland. And she is called Chef Maria because she is a chef in training. She is um, a wonderful, lovely person who streams The Long Dark and also Fallout 3. She's a variety streamer, and she's just wonderful in that community. She's gonna make a wonderful chef, and I can't wait to see her do cooking streams too. So she's a great time to watch and has such a nice laugh. So she's another person to take a look at among my followers. Most of my followers are chefs and foodies, honestly. Um, the Long Dark community, it's a game, it's a survival game, and almost all of the streamers are either foodies or chefs or involved in the kitchen industry as a line cook or something like that, or just a interested um, home chef like me. So I would call myself a cook, but some of them have done me the honor of calling me a chef after cooking for 44 years. Um, this is starting to heat up. Now I normally start that with warmed milk. Um, we didn't actually do that this time. This was actually milk from the refrigerator, so it's going to take a little extra time to get the sauce to start thickening. I can feel it starting to gather on the bottom of the pot, which is why I'm continuing to stir like this, because when a cream sauce starts to thicken, what it does is it starts to make a layer on the bottom of your pan, and you can feel it if you are stirring around. It goes from being a very slippery surface to almost feeling like you're pushing through pudding. And that's kind of what it's doing, because the flour is cooking, it's combining with the milk, and it is thickening into a sauce. And it starts at the bottom, and you want to keep stirring, because if you don't, it will burn to the bottom, and that's not good. It will poison the whole flavor of the thing. A little bit of burning in your pot, and you can count that as a burn, honey, because I just put my hand on the edge of the pot. um, it'll just permeate the whole dish. Yes, another. I won't tell you about earlier when I also did it. Now what I'm going to do once this turns into a sauce is I am going to season it. I'm going to put some more tomato juice in it to turn it into a tomato cream sauce, and a little bit of ketchup. And the ketchup will just make it a slightly sweet. Some people add, it's very common um, when people are using tomatoes in sauces, they'll use canned tomatoes, and what they'll do is they'll add sugar to the dish. Um, I would rather not do that. I would rather add tomatoes that are actually ripe, because when tomatoes are ripe, they have a natural sweetness to them if they're vine ripened. Well, when you add ketchup in the place of, say, tomato paste, what that does is makes it so that you don't have to add the sugar, but it adds a sweet tomato product to it already. And I would prefer to do that as a known quantity, instead of having to add um, adding a couple, you know, tablespoons of sugar to my tomatoes. And I guess it's really the same thing, but it doesn't feel like it to me. It's just a head thing, I guess. Hey LD, I know you don't do salmon. This would work very well with halibut or flounder, or you could do it with cod. I am actually doing a tomato cream sauce this time. Hey Glittered Kitten, I need shout outs for both of them now. Glittered Kitten is the wonderful person who made my absolutely gorgeous and adorable uh, badges and my little gold ring I have down there, and I need to talk to her about making some more emotes. And and she also streams The Long Dark, and she's a wonderful, talented artist, so easy to work with, and I highly recommend her if you are streaming or considering streaming and need any kind of artwork for your streams, any emotes or anything like that. She's a wonderful person. And then, of course, we have Long Dark Forever, who is a actual working chef, and he is one of the people that I first started watching when I branched out from what my husband was watching on stream and discovered the Long Dark and this wonderful community, which is the majority of my followers, and they are foodies and chefs, and thank God for them, because in addition to my husband's enabling me to do this, they also are the ones that encouraged me and told me that I really needed to do this. So, there we go. We need to add David to the VIPs too, Andrew. Anyway, they're both wonderful people. I have seen a cooking stream of David's. He does absolutely awesome cooking, although I most of the things I've seen him do involved snails and garlic, and I just don't think that there's a way for me to have escargot that doesn't have garlic in it. I think that that dish in particular really needs it, just like I can't imagine frog's legs without garlic either. Um, and I actually did have them once. Um, I took I took French in junior high school, and we got to take a um, oh, you're doing a cooking stream on Friday? Tell us about that. Uh, as I said, I took a French class in junior high school, and our big event was to go to a French restaurant where we were required to eat the French food that our teacher ordered for us, and part of that was escargot. Um, as I recall, they were very buttery and they were very garlicky, and they had very strange spoon, fork, tong things that you picked up the uh, shell with, and then you used your fork to pull the little snails out of their little pools, and they looked down on us when we slurped the garlic butter out of the shells, but they were tender and tasty and kind of earthy. Um, I did enjoy them because I wasn't allergic to garlic till I turned 18. So I enjoyed that very much, and I had frog legs in this kind of wine and butter sauce. Sneaky noodles, I can't wait. I have heard of sneaky noodles, but I asked her what the heck they were, and she said, oh, it was something LD taught me. Ooh, flan, yum, yum, yum. What time are you going to be doing this? Yum, yum, yum. I just talked about making a hollandaise sauce and why I didn't want to do it. So I'll watch your technique and see if I want to do it on Saturday when I'm going to be streaming breakfast for dinner. And I'll be making a breakfast lasagna and then a breakfast sandwich or two. Um, Depends on what I decide to do while the lasagna is cooking. Um, and anyway, I enjoyed the French food that I had very much. It was very expensive. And my speech teacher flunked me because he decided that it was more important for me to have gone to his speech class rather than my French class outing, even though he had been informed about it. He ended up making it a D minus instead when we protested, but yeah. Anyway, that was the best thing about French class completely was the food. Uh, no double boiler for you? I'll be interested in seeing how you do that. I've only ever done it the double boiler way, or since I don't actually own that, a pot of boiling water in a bowl. So, and what time are you think you're going to start? You kind of do it all over the map, so I want to make sure that I don't. Oh, I'm sure I will. Um, I want to make sure I don't miss it. 2-ish? Okay, and you're Eastern time, so that's 11 o'clock my time. So, yeah, I'll be there. Making notes and taking clips and seeing if you have a burn counter yet. And what are you going to be putting it on, these sauces? You'll never tell? Alright, I'll look and see. Oh, the sneaky noodles and stuff. Do the sauces go on the sneaky noodles, or are you just doing others? Oh, demonstrating how many sauces. Okay. Well, I don't know if you can see this, but this has got 7 cups of milk and a cup of flour and a stick of butter, and it has 3 tablespoons of ketchup in it. I've already got 1 can of V8 that I poached the salmon in, and that's on top of already cooked penne. You made the flans already? Oh, for a plating demo. Okay. I love flan. It's too bad there's so much sugar in it. Ah, it's okay. Did you work today, or you off work? Oh, that's right. You were being quarantined. How is everybody? How's your daughter doing? Is she okay? Now this is actually turning into a sauce now. You can see it's actually changed the complexion of what it looks like here, and I will show you. You want to make it so it rather thickly coats a spoon, and you can see it does coat the spoon. Nice. It is not as thick as I want it to be though, so I am going to continue to thicken it. They call that nap. Mm. I just know that that's how my grandma taught me. She said it needs to coat the back of the spoon like thin yogurt. Nappe? Ah. And this needs to have some seasoning in it. It needs to have some salt. And I'm probably adding about a half teaspoon. You can ring up another burn. I touched the pan again. It's French, of course. Yeah. Well, um, France is really popular for their cooking methods. Can't really deny that they're good either. So, did you learn at a culinary institute? Yeah. Did you learn the French method, or is that what they were teaching, or were there different YTI? Yeah. I know I've told the story before, but I tried to go to a culinary college, and they booted my butt right out the door after I talked to the instructor, and he found out I was allergic to garlic. What types of cuisine did they teach? Ah, yeah, you still learn the same things, but or somewhat, but you want to go to a certified college because it matters if you're going to be a chef instead of just a line cook or work in a kitchen and just want to know how to cook. Um, there are lots of places to learn to cook, though. There's usually places where people who just don't know how to cook and want to learn to cook for themselves um, can take evening courses at community colleges. Even some of the kitchen stores will teach courses. French, Asian, American, Italian, and Indian. Hmm. Asian cooking. Yum, yum, yum. Love that. It's probably one of my favorites. My favorite, I have three different kinds of comfort food that I think of when I think of official comfort food. One of them is Mexican for me because we almost never had it growing up, and I really loved tacos. And so that was always a comforting thing to me and a good memory. And we also, Asian food was a comfort food to me because we had it so rarely. I'm going to taste my sauce now. It's much thicker now. Hmm, needs a bit more salt. And it needs more dill. So this is probably going up to about 3/4 of a teaspoon. I'm not adding as much salt to this as I would because I did mix it. I did poach the salmon in V8 juice, and that's very sodium laden, so not going to do as much salt. And I am going to add some more V8 to this because it doesn't quite have the tomato taste I'm looking for yet. So I'm going to thin it a bit with about another half a can of V8. I just don't like the taste of tomato paste. It kind of tastes tinny to me, kind of metallic. I really don't care for that. And this has the right color now. I don't know if you can see it. It's almost a peachy color. It is um, the color of the cooked salmon, actually, which is a good guide. And I will test again. It's much thicker now, so that's good. And I am going to turn the heat off and just let it thicken a bit more. The heat will stay going underneath it for a while because these are, like I said, solid um, solid cast iron plates underneath it, and my pot that I have here maintains the heat very well too for quite a while on its own. So it will continue to thicken. Another good thing is that I will now add the rest of the ingredients to this. I am going to add some peas, and this is about a cup of peas. And that will cook the peas. I like to kind of leave them a bit undercooked. I'm also adding mushrooms to this because I love mushrooms. So I've got both of those now. And that heat will cook the little peas as much as I want them to be cooked. I would eat peas raw and everything if I could because they're just so fabulous when they're raw. You're welcome, Glitter Kitten. You are definitely a VIP in my stream, and so is David. You guys have both been so encouraging and supportive to me that really that's the only way I have to thank you. Okay. I'm gonna let that come up a bit, and my peas are starting to get stuck. All right. I want that to be a little bit hotter. And this is not a casserole that is going to be cooked in the oven. It's kind of a stovetop thing. When your sauce is done, you put it over the pasta and you're done. So I am going to now take and ladle this over my pasta and fish, and then I will gently mix those up. I am going to put the top on that so it doesn't get any colder. And I will bring forward my penne pasta and the pink salmon that I poached. And I will now ladle this on. It's good to know how big your ladle is. This is about a good half cup so that you can keep the sauce even. Alright, now I will take my spatula, one of my favorite implements of the kitchen, and start gently stirring this about, trying not to break up the salmon. I want it to coat everything because pasta really sucks in the sauce. This has the cooking liquid that I cooked the salmon in. I could have poached it in some wine too, but my husband really isn't that crazy about wine. I don't really blame him. I kind of have a aversion if it's not cooked off. So you don't want it to taste like raw wine. That's just ugh. Add another couple ladles here to this. And that one will be done. So this is wild caught pink salmon in a tomato cream sauce that I've seasoned with parsley and a little bit of sage and some dill, salt and pepper, and then added in peas and mushrooms to make it a little bit more of a complete dish. I would ideally be serving this with a salad. It's got quite a bit of pasta, and this is 2 pounds of salmon to 2 pounds of pasta. So that one is done now, and I'll take that out of the way and bring in the second one. And yes, I have a lot of these because I bought 30 of them, the disposable aluminum baking trays, and I got them 30 of them for $11 at Costco, and I can buy 3 of them for like $7 or $8 in the grocery store, so that was a great deal. And that's why I have all of them, and I use them all the time. And set them in for recycling when they're done. But it makes it so that we can have multiple trays, and I use them for mise en place, basically. As I go through and cook up the vegetables for a dish, I'll put them in this and then tip them in when it's time. And I've got this covered quite liberally. I will go and mix this through now. And this one is slightly smaller than the other tray, so the other tray will probably get most of the remaining sauce. And then I will plate it up for you, and my husband will get the taste of it, and he'll get to tell you what he thinks of it. Hopefully he doesn't gag. That would be bad. He does like salmon though, so salmon and cod. Although his favorite way to have cod, I believe, is fried with chips. Hi, Tina Bug. I'm feeling pretty good today, actually. A little sore, but that's just old age and weather. So, you're just about ready to see the big reveal, which is what my husband thinks of this salmon casserole I just made. And let me cover that and move this carefully out of the way. Get the first tray back because it needs more sauce. It has a little bit more pasta in it than the other one did. Okay. And I'm going to have him take the cream sauce away before it gets stuck in the pan. There you go, honey. And I will now. And the salmon that I got was frozen, and it was individually wrapped, and I took the salmon and cut them into 1 by 1 inch squares, and then I poached them in sage and dill in a V8 juice that gave them extra yummy tastiness. And there is my finished dish, and I will now get out some of my new soup and casserole bowls. I think I'll use the dark blue and the turquoise because that'll be pretty. And I will now take this, ladle it into the dishes. husband here. Okay, I'm going to put a couple mushrooms on top so that you can tell there's mushrooms in it. And then, do we have forks, honey, that you can actually eat with? And clean up the edges here so the picture will be pretty. Do you do this too, David, when you do this? I don't know whether or not you do. I'm sure you have to clean rims and stuff for the food you serve in your restaurant, but do you take pictures of your food and fuss about whether or not it's pretty? It is something I can eat. Fish does not bother me a bit. And this does not have any garlic in it, and so I'm not sure which will be a prettier picture, but I'm really muffing that up right there. I am trying to make a pretty picture. I am also going to, for mine, add a little bit of dill on top to make it pretty. So I'm going to take a little pinch of dill, sprinkle it on top. And where is my camera? Right here. And try not to get my fingers in the shot. And then we'll try a picture of my husband's just to see if that color looks better. All right, now, so that everybody can see, this has got some peas and some mushroom and some salmon in it and pasta. I'm going to take a forkful of it, let you all look. Doesn't that look pretty? Look at that. Mm. And there's my husband. He can try his dish and tell you what he thinks. The sauce is creamy. You can taste the dill in it. You can taste the salmon, obviously, and there is a slight tinge of tomato to it, not a lot. Yeah, I know, I was busy trying to tell them in my words what it tastes like. And the salmon is perfectly done. As I said, when it's done, it flakes, it breaks into nice flakes. It's done all the way through. And although it's just pink salmon, and feel free to use um, sockeye or coho. You could use king salmon if you want. I used a pink salmon instead of a red. Um, just personal preference, really. The red salmons are a little more oil heavy. Mm. Second bite is just as good as the first. The cream sauce, oh my God, you're not putting HP on that. The salmon is a nice, delicate flavor, and the tomato is not overpowering. It doesn't scream tomato sauce, and it combines so nicely with the cream sauce and the dill. You can taste the mushrooms in it. You can taste the sweetness of the peas. And this was based off of my grandmother's uh, creamed salmon on toast. So here you have my salmon casserole. It is lovely. And for you, kitten, you could cut the pasta a bit. You could use the chickpea pasta, which um, has high protein in it, and it's not quite so high in the carbs. But you could even change the vegetables. If you added a sweet corn to this, it would accent the sweetness of the salmon. Um, I just don't like corn with salmon. It's just one of those things. So you could use a much lower carb um, pasta than I did here. Um, I know that you watch your carbs, and I try to. So on Saturday at 4 p.m. Pacific, could slide to 5, depends on how I'm feeling. I will be making um, breakfast for dinner, when I will be making a breakfast lasagna and some breakfast sandwiches and something else. But you do like it, right, honey? Anyway, I want to thank everybody who came, Tina Bug and LD and Glittered Kitten. Breakfast lasagna, yeah, it's made with scrambled eggs and a sausage gravy. And yum, yum, yum. It is very nice. And if you like biscuits and gravy, you'll like this. And it has so much less carbohydrates in it because it only has 3 pieces of pasta in it. 3 sheets of pasta for the whole thing. And um, that's much less than biscuits. It is really good, and I'll give you the recipe for that as well. So let's see who's on that we can raid. Is LD, are you going to be streaming? Can we hop over to you, or let's see. I believe I have Twitch over here. I only see one cooking stream on, but I see Hambone and Diving Bean and Baba's on. Why don't we raid? Why don't we raid Diving Bean? He's a good egg. So it is Diving Bean. Anyway, thanks so much for coming, everybody. We will see you on Saturday, and I know you'll see me in your streams. And thank you again for coming. Bye-bye.